I carefully scooped up the baby lamb away from his dead mother. She lay on her side with her eyes half open, and she looked like she felt relieved, even in death. "You did a good job, Birdie," I whispered to her. I cradled the lamb and rocked him gently. "We're gonna call you Joey." I rubbed his nose and ran my hand gently down his face. "Sorry about your mom." He grunted. "Let's go find you a bottle." I carried him out through the big barn door, leaving Birdie behind. Even though the lamb was just a little guy, my arms grew tired under his weight. He bleated, and I couldn't calm him down. "It's okay, Joey. We're going to set you up in the big house," I assured him. We climbed the hill towards the house a few steps at a time. I kept having to stop and settle myself. I was getting the spins and losing my breath, and Joey twisted my arms and cried out. You're okay, I soothed him. I tried to breathe deep, but I couldn't stop panting. The ground felt like jelly, so I took a knee to compose myself. I started seeing white spots float around my vision, and it began to get dark, until I was bathed in a strange yellow light. A low pitch hummed, rattling my bones in a deep, relaxing way. The noise was heavy. It gave off a pressure that pushed me down towards the ground. I was blanketed in light, and I felt warm. And not just on the outside, it felt like it was inside me as well, just shining through my body. Joey was calm in my arms, so cute and helpless. He nuzzled against me and sighed. I shut my eyes and saw white. I woke up with Joey in my arms. It took a moment to remember where I was. I felt like I had the strangest dream, but I couldn't remember. The TV was blaring, my legs were asleep, and my back stiff from sitting up straight on the couch all night. My shirt was warm and soaking wet. Joey had up and pissed all over me. "Oh, you dirty son of a bitch," I laughed. "Let's go," I said, forcing myself up. I wobbled on my pins and needles legs into the kitchen, pulled a bottle of milk from the fridge, and put it in the microwave just to heat it up a bit. Birdie had been lethargic for weeks and losing weight, so I'd pre-packed the fridge with milk just in case the worst happened. I was hoping it wouldn't, but I knew it would. The microwave dinged. I tested the temperature of the milk by pouring a drop on my wrist, just like I did when I had a baby of my own. I stuck the bottle in Joey's mouth and headed upstairs and down the hallway as my legs regained feeling. I opened the door to Kim's room and stepped inside for the first time in probably 15 years. "Sorry I didn't make your bed," I said, chuckling to myself. Sagging and mildewy boxes ran from the floor to the ceiling, spilling out Kim's stuff. Photos, old magazine, clothes, gifts I got her. I set Joey down on the stained carpet. "I hope you're pleased with your accommodations," I joked. "The bathroom is wherever you want it to be. We'll keep you up here for the night, and tomorrow you can go make some friends." I patted him on the head, shut the door behind me, and went to bed. Within a few days, Joey was the star of the pen. The other sheep, even the older, cranky ones, took to him. He wobbled around on his weak legs, but never once fell down and never seemed to get tired despite his size. Greta, a younger ewe, corralled him and kept him close along with her own newborn. I'd never seen anything like that before. And every time I walked up to the fence, Joey was the first one of them to run up and see me. Bearing Birdie wasn't easy, on account of me being sentimental as well as the physical demand. I didn't dig the hole as deep as I should have, but I couldn't seem to catch my breath, let alone swing the shovel with how the cancer made my side swell up. It was a strange pregnancy. Birdie was too old to carry the lamb, not to mention I kept her separate from the rams. And one afternoon, she just walked up to me and her wool had changed color, from a bright white to a steely, shiny gray. And she looked like she was already 3 months pregnant. She came to term quick, too quick. Joey was just some sort of miracle. I turned to climb up the hill when I saw my son's green minivan parked in front of the house. "God damn it," I muttered. So I took my time walking up the hill. My face was flushed by the time I was at the top.
"You don't look so good,"
my boy said, reprimanding me. His arms were crossed in his muddy khaki Cabela's field jacket. He leaned against his beaten-up van, trying to look tough. "That's funny, I don't feel so good either," I laughed. He frowned.
"Dr. Fletcher called me this morning,"
he said with a leading pause. My ears burned. Well, that was nice of her. How's she doing? He sneered.
How come you stopped treatment?
Let's talk inside, I said, walking past him. He grabbed my arm and stopped me.
We're fine here,
he said seriously. We stared each other down like two dumb donkeys. He looked exhausted. He had deep circles under his eyes, needed a shave, and had put on more weight since I'd seen him last. Isn't that illegal? I asked.
Isn't what illegal?
He cut back. Dr. Fletcher just giving you over my information like that. I thought there was some sort of confidentiality agreement or something.
In the sewer,
he responded, putting in a lip of skull. I sighed. That stuff will kill you, he sneered.
Dad, I can't have you dying out here.
I felt a moment of shock, but then was touched by his unexpected concern. I set the shovel down and rested my chin on it. I stared at the ground.
You're all alone out here. You don't answer your phone? Well, either you don't answer or they cut off the service,
he muttered. Oh, yeah, they cut it off, I assured him. He shook his head. It's not like I was getting any calls in the first place, I said with a bite. He took it in stride.
Dr. Fletcher said you'll still have a lot of years in you if you just start taking care of yourself,
he said without looking at me.
But these sheep, the land, soybeans, you're getting too old for all of it.
He sighed. I nodded. I'd never seen him show any sort of emotion before. It took me off guard and broke my heart a little. Yeah, I don't know, I said, trying to fill up the space.
I was thinking, well, Crystal and I were thinking.
He cleared his throat and looked up at me. Guilt flashed in his eyes.
If you sell the house...
Oh my God.
That'll be quite a sum of money. We can sell the sheep, the land.
That's enough.
Then maybe we'll get some money and it won't all go to the bank when you...
He stopped himself, his face red. I scoffed, mad as hell, and he rubbed his boot into the dirt and spat. I'd storm right past you and walk straight into the house if I didn't think you'd shoot me in the back, I said flatly. He threw his arms up. Sorry it'll be such an inconvenience when I die. I'll try and hurry up so you can go ahead and get over with it. My voice was quivering. He stared down and began to speak, but stopped himself. He just smirked and abruptly got into his van. He had a smile that showed me he wasn't finished yet. The ignition caught and the engine squealed to life. Muffled radio blared through the doors. He turned down the volume and lowered the window.
Mom's in town,
he said directly with a satisfied smirk. My eyes went wide and the air got sucked out of me. I felt my cheeks burn. Bullshit, I whispered.
It's true. I passed her on the sidewalk on Oak Street. I had the girls with me.
What did she say? I asked hoarsely.
I walked right past her. She didn't even recognize me.
He gripped the steering wheel.
I didn't feel a fucking thing,
he whispered, unable to conceal the anger in his voice. Where was she headed? I rasped.
Where the hell do you think? O'Neill's. I guarantee she's wasted there right now.
How'd she look? He ignored me.
Can you do your family just one favor and make sure she's not in your will by the time you go tits up? It'd mean a lot to us,
he said coldly. He clunked the van into reverse. Joey, I'm sorry, I croaked.
Joe. No one calls me Joey.
He rolled up the window and backed up, then peeled down the driveway doing 50. When my eyes stopped burning and my nose stopped running, I dropped the shovel and walked down to the pen. Joey the lamb, the sweet Joey, ran up to me, bleating happily. I took a rope off the fence and made a leash and put it over his head. He excitedly wobbled in circles. You're getting an upgrade, buddy, I said. I opened the pen and let him out. We headed towards the house. We're roommates now, I laughed. And he followed me like a dog. We slowly climbed the hill when I stopped in my tracks. There was a perfect, lush green circle of grass in the middle of my otherwise dead and dry lawn. In the middle, a dark shadow of me was imprinted in the grass with an impression of Joey next to me. It was in the same place from the dream I had a few nights before. The grass sparkled. I knelt down and glitter fell off the blades as I ran my fingers through it. They dropped tiny chips of brilliant gold. I held them up to my eyes and my hands were shaking. I looked at Joey to confirm he was seeing what I was seeing. Flecks of gold were stuck to his fur. I scooped up more gold, and a perfect large rectangle of grass began to disintegrate within the circle. There was something hard underneath. I swept away the grass and the gold, and a platinum plaque revealed itself. On it, a phrase was engraved: Hoofs and Feet. I stared at Joey. He stared back. "Sweet Jesus," I muttered. I put my hand against the plaque, and it was warm. It vibrated against my hand in a soothing way. My heart pounded. It was like a weird light was glowing inside me. I covered up the plaque with grass and stumbled backwards. "I really am sick, Joey," I gasped. "I think I'm hallucinating." I buttoned up my denim dress shirt and looked in the mirror. The whites of my eyes were developing a trace of yellow, and my skin was turning an unhealthy gray. I winced as fear washed over me. But other than my gaunt cheekbones and sagging eyes, I looked pretty cleaned up. "I could use a makeover," I said to Joey, who was circling my legs and nuzzling against me. I wetted my comb and ran it over my head, my salt and pepper hair more salt than pepper. "At least I got my hair," I smiled at Joey. I think I might shear us both and make a sweater out of us." And I giggled like an idiot. I went to the toilet to go one last time before heading out. I managed to trickle out a weak stream and still felt like I had to pee after I stopped. My side ached, and the toilet water was tinted light pink. "What are we gonna do?" I sighed to Joey. He bleated gently and rubbed against my calf. I put 75 cents in the parking meter and took a deep breath. My heart was pounding and my hands were shaking, but this time it wasn't from my struggling heart. It was nerves. And I exhaled and my breath quivered out of me, vibrating. I wiped my sweaty palms on my jeans and headed to O'Neill's. Bells on the door jingled when I walked in. My eyes adjusted to the dark and I scanned the bar. A tired couple sat transfixed by a TV playing a rerun of a game show. So I took a seat at the far end. The bartender walked towards me sideways, his eyes set on the TV. He asked without looking at me. "I'll have something light," I said coolly.
We have Budweiser and Mick Ultra,
he said vacantly. "Budweiser," I responded. He walked away without acknowledging my order. I stared at the dusty rack of liquor bottles. I felt both relieved and disappointed that Kim wasn't there. Maybe if I stayed all day, she'd stagger in, and if that was the case, then I'd better switch to Mick Ultra. The bartender did his sideways walk and put the beer in front of me. He hadn't even twisted off the cap. He walked towards the TV without telling me how much I owed, and I stared at the TV too. It was hypnotizing. The door to the restroom opened with a dull thud, and I was too absorbed in the game show to even turn around. The stool next to me pulled out. Someone sat.
"What is this crap?"
she said in a gravel tenor, facing the TV. She was probably 100 pounds, soaking wet, her hair stringy and greasy. Her top teeth were missing, making it look like she had an underbite. She sucked on her gums wetly. It was Kim. "Hi, Kim," I said, my hand shaking. She ignored me.
Hey, Jimmy, turn this shit off. 300 channels and you watch reruns of this shit? I can tell you how it ends."
She laughed and then coughed with a sickening rattle. It was some burned-out sound from meth or crack or God knows what. She turned to me.
"I haven't seen you around here,"
she said, rubbing her nose and sucking on her gums. Her eyes were bloodshot and one nostril was set higher than the other. She didn't recognize me. "Yeah, well, I haven't seen you in a while either," I said, lifting my bottle to take a sip. I was shaking so hard I overshot the distance to my mouth and almost chipped a tooth.
"You're funny."
She laughed deadly.
"I like funny guys."
Her voice was deep and strained. She sounded like a witch. "That's the first time anyone's ever told me that," I said, my ears burning. A decades-old heartache flared in my chest. She put her hand on my thigh.
"I'm sorry,"
she said seriously. I looked at her. Tears burned in my eyes, but they didn't trickle down my face. "Why?" I mumbled.
Christ, I'm all tapped out. Don't got $1 to my name. Would you be a dear and get me a drink, hun?
She asked with a manipulative smile. She tried to look sexy, but she couldn't betray her scheming, sinister, addict eyes. I didn't respond. A long silence hung in the air. She batted her eyes in an uncoordinated way.
Oh, come on, Mr. Funny Man,
she pleaded. Took a swig and finished my beer. It was lukewarm and flat. My heart felt like it was in 2 pieces. I slowly stood up and put $10 on the bar. All yours, I said, and headed for the door.
$10? Jimmy,
she shouted behind me.
This funny guy is a fucking cheapskate.
She laughed. The couple and Jimmy stared at the TV, ignoring her. And the hair on my neck stood straight up. I got out of the truck. That circle in the grass was more verdant, the grass higher and thicker. A strange glow emanated off it. I went to approach it and just stopped. Get your head on straight, I reprimanded myself. I turned away. In the house, Joey was asleep on the floor. The screen door wheezed shut behind me and woke him. He wobbled up excitedly and hopped on towards me. Hey, buddy, I said. My voice quivered and my face was wet from crying in the truck. He weaved through my legs. There was a small pile of dung on the carpet and a wet spot where he pissed. Well, we're gonna have to house drain you, I laughed. You'll be the first housebroken sheep in the world. How about that? I said, patting his head. Kind of funny to think about. Do you think I'm a funny guy, Joey? I asked. He nuzzled against my legs. I bent down to scoop him up. How about you and me? I couldn't speak. My tongue felt limp and thick in my mouth, and the left side of my body drooped. I sank to my knees, then fell against the hard wood. A stinging, metallic smell overwhelmed me. My head felt like it was splitting in half. I tried to shout, but it just came out as a sick groan. Joey came to me and licked my face as my vision went spotty. Breathing got difficult. I squirmed in terror when the ground beneath me began to vibrate. It felt warm. It was soothing. And Joey pulled away from me and looked around the room in a panic. He circled around me as if to protect me. My vision snapped back into focus and my headache stopped. That metallic smell was replaced by the scent of warm roses. And my tongue felt like it shrunk back to normal and the pins and needles in my arm went away. I gasped a full breath of air. I felt lightheaded, like I was high. Slowly, Joey was lifted into the air. I trembled in horror as I myself lifted off the ground. Then the couch rose off the hardwood and levitated. Pictures floated off the walls as an intense hum filled the house. The TV hung in the air as the hum vibrated my bones. The sound came to an abrupt halt. Then everything crashed to the ground. I hit my head on the floor with a thud and my ears rang. Joey hit the floor and popped right up, just bleeding in terror. We gotta get out of here! I shouted at Joey. I brought myself to my feet and limped out the door, Joey close behind me. I staggered down the porch and onto the grass when the hum droned so loud the windows broke and got sucked into the house like a tornado. And with this loud, cracking noise, the house pulled off the ground and levitated about 10 feet over the foundation. Dust and splinters of wood floating around it. It dropped from the air and crashed, collapsing on the foundation. Joey, go! Go! But I looked down and Joey was gone. Joey! I cried. I whipped around desperately and my eyes caught him. He was standing in this strange circle of grass. It was now shooting up a bright light into the air like a searchlight. Joey, get out of there! I ran towards him, gasping for breath. He turned to me and nodded his head. I went into the light. It felt warm and calm, and my head stopped hurting where I hit it. The grass was emitting flakes of silver and gold that were getting pulled into the air. Joey stood on the platinum plaque. I stepped onto the plaque and a whirring hum came from above. I tried to look up, but the force of the sound kept my head down. Joey, I croaked. He leaned against my legs. Slowly, we were brought up into the air in this tube of warm light. Hoofs and feet on the plaque gradually blurred out of view as we levitated farther away. We floated higher and higher. I had a bird's eye view of my collapsed house. I saw the fields below me in perfect, symmetrical squares. And we rose higher. And I felt warm. There was this light inside of me that filled me with a soothing yellow glow. Above us, a pneumatic noise hissed. There was an abrupt clank of metal and the sound of a door rolling open. I patted Joey on the head and he nuzzled against my leg.